and it hits me, oh my gosh, this is that triangle.
You know, there's explanation for everything that occurred in the Rendlesham Forest incident that doesn't involve aliens at all.
It was completely silent. It comes right over our heads.
He saw a classic flying saucer really standing in the clearing.
He turned over to my father and held his hand, and he looked in his eyes and he said, "We're not alone."
Welcome to Podcast UFO for our live show. Our live shows are right here at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please remember to visit the website, podcastufo.com. Check out the latest blogs and forums. And while you're there, don't forget to like our very active Facebook page.
Hello, and welcome to the show. And this is Martin Willis. We're on the Dark Matter Radio Network. And we're coming at you live from on top of a mountain in Maine. Doesn't that sound nice? There's a lot of black flies, though, this time of year. Something else. I want to apologize for last week. I had a Time Warner cable internet problem that was fixed on Saturday, so now we should be coming at you loud and clear. And I have a big, huge announcement. Wednesdays are tough for me. I just get in front of the microphone, and I don't have any time to prepare. I'm not playing the little violin here. I'm not trying to. It's just that I am going to be switching the time slot to 9 p.m. instead of 8 p.m. coming up starting next week. So it's probably going to take a couple of weeks for people to get used to. I'm going to have to redo my letterhead, all that stuff. But, it's going to be a lot better. I'll have more time to prepare. And actually, Keith, from the producer of Dark Matter Radio Network, is telling me that more people listen later on anyway. So it'll work out just fine. I know it will. I hope it doesn't affect people who listen at work and all that. But remember, you can always listen to a podcast after. We have Andy Fleming coming up in a minute with a segment called Venus, Earth's Evil Twin with a Twist. Isn't that an intriguing title? And after that, our guest will be Richard Giroux, who was on last week. And we got into how the world was going to end or something like that. And then the show ended with our bad Skype. Again, I apologize for that. If you want to look at the latest UFO news, please head on over to Facebook, our Facebook page at Podcast UFO. If you want to get there real quickly, go to podcastufo.com. And on the right, you'll see an icon. You can click and go right there. Peggy Fleming. Peggy Fleming. Can you believe that? Peggy Shunning. Peggy Fleming, for those of you who don't know, was a famous figure skater from way back. She's going to kill me for that one. She admins the page, and she does a bang-up job, really a good job. There's always new, fresh information on astronomy, on UFOs, of course. And one caught my eye this tonight when I got home and jumped in front of the microphone. Investigators are looking into recent UFO sighting in Derry, New Hampshire. Now, that's not far from where I am right now, the way the crow flies, and there's probably a lot of crows that fly over there from here. It's an interesting story. I have the link in the show notes. And I got on the phone to the MUFON investigator who's looking into that, Mark Podell, and he couldn't even talk on the phone. There was all kinds of chaos going on there. I don't know if he was being abducted, his wife was actually holding the phone while he was talking. He could not be on our show tonight, is the bottom line. I don't know if it sounded like it was mud wrestling or something. I'm not really sure what he was up to. And, without further ado, as they say, I'm going to be playing this clip by Andy Fleming, and then after that, we'll be coming up with our guest, Richard Giroux. Hang in there. Take a listen.
And hello, Martin and listeners. Now, Venus is an object that can easily be misidentified as a UFO, especially when driving, as it seems to follow you about. It's the second brightest object in our night sky, and this is due to both its proximity to the Sun and its minimum distance of only 38 million kilometres from the Earth. It is also very reflective due to its clouds of sulfur dioxide. Venus hugs our star, which is why you only see it for a period around sunrise or sunset. Like our moon, it shows crescent, gibbous, quarter and full phases, and these were discovered by Galileo, of course, in 1609. For this to happen, he knew Venus had to be orbiting the Sun and not the Earth. In its full phase, when on the opposite side of the Sun to the Earth, it is spectacular, especially when setting at twilight. Then it's a glowing orangey disk as its light is scattered in our atmosphere. It's a hellish place, though. You wouldn't want to go there. It's our planet's evil twin. It's about the same mass as the Earth, but it has a dense atmosphere of carbon and sulfur dioxides at 100 times terrestrial pressure. It's also undergone a runaway greenhouse effect with temperatures of 470 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt tin. It's a salutary reminder of what happens when a planetary climate goes berserk, when a planet is slightly closer to the Sun, when there are no plate tectonics, and when the carbon cycle releases most of the carbon in the rocks into the atmosphere instead. The result? A desiccated, arid planetary oven, where water molecules dissociate and the planet's hydrogen is lost to space. For those like us interested in alien, well, microbial life at any rate, there's recently been speculation about Venus's atmosphere. Now, at an altitude of about 60 kilometres, the pressure and temperature are much more like those on the Earth. There's also water vapour and traces of oxygen. On Earth, bacteria thrive in clouds, making it just conceivable that this happens on Venus too. Such bacteria, incidentally, also thrive in acidic conditions, similar to those found in Venus's cloud layers. Floating microbes could explain three anomalies about the Venusian atmosphere. Now, first, the clouds appear to absorb more ultraviolet light than they should. Theoretically, microbes could use sulfur, abundant in Venus's atmosphere, as a kind of ultraviolet sunblock. Also, there are particles in the atmosphere which haven't been identified yet. These are larger than other droplets and are sulfur-rich, non-spherical, and are the same size as bacteria. Finally, carbonyl sulfide is present in the Venusian atmosphere. This is very, very difficult to produce without life. Now, on the Earth, it's an unambiguous indicator of biological activity. So what is it doing in Venus's clouds? Now, if you're interested in taking a look at Venus, it will be appearing in the pre-dawn skies near you from next week. Remember, though, that as you view it from our earthly heaven, you're looking at planetary hell.
Well, that should be this week, not next week, because that clip was actually supposed to run last week. So get out there with the telescope. Now, the other day I was up out with my telescope. You can see Mars, which is always cool, the red planet, where you know and I know there's probably some type of past life that happened there. I'm thinking that anyway, with water and all the right ingredients. But I want to thank Andy for that clip. And now just pull up your chairs around the old computer, get yourself a hot spot of tea, and don't forget to go on the chat room on podcastufo.com. It's right on the sidebar. This is for live listeners, of course. And live listeners, if you just came on board, don't forget, next week we're changing it to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1 a.m. UTC, GMT. And that's so I can actually prepare a little bit for the shows. That'll be interesting. So I'm going to be phoning our guests the old-fashioned way. We're going to hear the phone ring and all that. Richard Giroux should be coming up here. Let's give him a try.
Yeah, Rick here.
Rich, welcome back to our show. Thanks for being on, and sorry about last week and the audio problems we had.
Well, technology is not too refined down here.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us. And, last week we got into all kinds of things, and, we kind of ended off talking about what was zapped in your head, supposedly, and the end of the world in 20 years. And so I started maxing out my credit cards. Might as well, Might as well start now. Let's get back to, for the new listener, who a lot of people, of course, didn't hear you, because I would think that a majority of people that listen to the show do listen to the podcast, which did not go out last week, of course. So why don't you kind of give a recap about yourself and what happened in, down in Florida. You took a break from work and all that. Why don't you just do a quick nutshell recap of what we did last week, and then we'll talk further.
Let's see if I can do that. We had a hard day at work, so we decided to bomb out of the hotel and come on out to Lake Okeechobee, where I have a shack, and just kick back. So we did that, and we no sooner got here and went outside by the canal just to get some air when this light was coming down the canal about 800 feet in the air, about a quarter mile away. And it's coming slowly, and I'm not thinking much. I'm thinking it's a helicopter with a searchlight under it. And what it turned out to be is a UFO, which didn't cross our mind at all, hardly until later. And what they did was they came deliberately to stop and chat. And the way they do that is with telepathy. I had a voice appear in my head that I could hear, so it was explicit conversation, which as it went along changed to implicit. The thoughts, I would just hear the thought and wouldn't have to hear the voice.
Well, before we move on from that, Richard, did you, a lot of people who have claimed similar things had talked about them actually seeing like images, almost like a TV screen. Did you see any of that in your mind?
No, not at that time. Much later, a lot of that happened. What they did, the purpose was they stopped to load my head up with information. And they did that with an extremely low-frequency wave, which started off like a flutter, like moth wings. And it just stayed on me and for a while and went to incredibly high heights in frequency and intensity in my head. And it didn't interfere with where I would live. It just gave me this buzz, which when it released me, I doubled up and spun around, trying to get my balance, and everything was distorted for about 10 seconds or so. And then I looked for them, and they were leaving. They were about a mile down on the canal already on their way. But the payoff of this thing was that they gave me this buzz, this maximum buzz, which didn't affect anything for about a year. And then I started getting images and vignettes of other lives and places and information. And the information came in dribs and drabs. At first it was a month, something would happen. In a month I'd get something more. In another month I'd get something more. Well, the frequency of that picked up. And it just kept coming for about 15 years. And it's the subject, I wrote everything down that came that I know. And they helped me write this book, which is, and oh, by the way, they let me know my real name is Darius, who, if you remember, was a Persian king of note about 2,500 years ago. And so they said, they gave me the sequence of the end of this world. The main message is this is a dying world right here and now. And we've got about 20 years to balance everything up because there's no stopping what's going to happen. There's a sequence of errors and problems are coming that are just going to bury us.
Now, before we move on from there, were you aware, well, first of all, there's a couple of questions up on our chat room. And by the way, everyone's welcome to go over there to the chat room, and it's a 1-2 click sign in and to pose questions. Before I go on with a question that I have in mind, someone wants to know on the chat room, why do you suppose they chose you?
Well, I was going to try to avoid that for a while, but I'll tell you. It turns out that me, Rick Giroux, I am the Revelation 14:6. That pertains to who I am and what this is all about and why they gave me the information. They close out this world every 26,000 years. And this is the last time they're going to do that in this grand cycle. We're all here to develop ourselves spiritually. The body we wear is not who we are. And when the body dies, we don't. We go on. That's part of some of the main message. And they're closing it out now because it's time. We've run our course, and now all hell is going to break loose on Earth.
Okay, the question I had, go ahead, sorry.
I just probably said more than I intended to already.
Okay. Someone else has a question on the message board. Have you ever received any information that you were actually later able to confirm something that they said?
I'm just trying to think if that's true. Except for the wave of tourism, I can't say that anything else is. There is one thing that's pending that is part of the World Trade Center bombing with aircraft, is that they're going to kill 15,000 of us in USA before something else bigger happens. They've killed 3,000 of us. They owe us 12,000 more. That has to happen before anything else goes forward, because they gave me the whole sequence, not when, which I must tell you has been a big strain that I didn't get when. But we're going to take the casualties from another terrorist attack on USA, 12,000 more of us. And that's the marker of something bigger that's coming right immediately after, which will be Pakistan will kill Mumbai, India, with a nuclear bomb. When you see these things happen, then you'll know that all the other stuff that I wrote is going to come true. And my book is called The Last Prophet. I am Darius, The Last Prophet. And it's available on Amazon if anybody has any interest. I promise you will all have interest when these things begin to happen.
Now,
this has been a very hard thing to live with, I might tell you.
Yeah, I guess it would be if I had any knowledge that I thought was absolutely true like that. Were you ever brought to believe that there was anything that could be done to change the course of events?
I have grim news. No, there's nothing we can do about it except to prepare ourselves to move on into a higher realm.
Now, is this all...
That's been moving up.
Another message board question is this all Christian-based?
No, this is not. I have no religious message to convey, but I do have a lot of information about how things are structured in the universe, who is pulling the strings and why and when. That much I do have.
Well, let's hear that.
Well, there are 25 commission districts in the universe in use by the higher people. 25. And each of those are 10,000 galaxies in size and sector. Now, the higher people live in higher realms, and they told me that the universe has 12 realms of living existence. 12. We are at 0. This is level 0, realm 0. And this is where the life is, and you have to wear a bodysuit to live this life here, while others can come and visit in higher form, and they do, and they go, and they come and go. Above that, there are 10 higher realms stacked like a ladder. And we are, those of us who are being put through that are moving through each of those 10 realms. It's all a master plan of development. They even gave me a diagram of the universe, which I published. And it looks like a wide, flat ice cream cone. Go figure.
There's always controversy whether there is an end to the universe. Are you saying that there actually is?
No, the universe actually is forever. It's going to stay here forever. What it turns out to be is one of a number of nodes. It looks like a cereal flower, and it's one of a number of nodes of other universes like this that are within a higher universe. There's no, imagine that there's a higher universe than this, but it's going to take us very long to get there. We have all the time there is or was going forward. Time is definitely not what it seems, and that's a major theme in my book. What they gave me, I didn't invent. I'm not that smart. But time is the key to it all. It is definitely not what it seems.
Time has always been a very controversial thing to explain.
They've given me a lot of experiences, individual experiences, showing me how time is different. I've had people come to me that have shifted me into other time and have had an experience or two of what it is that they were trying to show me. Well, no time elapsed on a clock in this world, and then shifted me back with full memory of having done it.
Wow.
That's also in the book.
Let's see. Do you know who Dolores Cannon is?
No, I'm afraid I don't.
Okay, that was
These
another.
days I'm not very well read.
There's a question up. I guess there's some similar things that she is actually claiming as well. And
there's a number of us here.
In your experience, who created the human race?
God. Name
So the supreme being is part of this.
Yes, and the supreme being is a woman. She appeared to me as a woman.
Okay.
And there are 12 autonomous powers in the universe. 12, only 12 in this universe. She being the top one. And then they go down from there, and let's see, Lucifer and Abraham are the lowest.
I see. Okay. This is another question. We get, just so you know, people are listening live, and some of them jump over to the website, podcastufo.com, and they sign into our chat room, and then they can ask you questions. So that's kind of what's happening here. Someone wants to know how this experience has changed your life.
Well, as it went on year by year, I did less of what I wanted to do in life, and started doing what came to mind for me to do. In other words, I was rowing, not steering after that. And it's led me to many of the others. There are a number of elders in this world, graduates of a process like we're going through. And they have been largely filling my life in the last, particularly the last 10 years. And I found about 150 of them right here in Okeechobee, which is why I've stayed around here. Now, I had plans to go to Maine and kick back and have a life, and that's all out now. I think I'll have to stay here where I am and listen to the things that I need to do.
What was your life? What was your life like before this happened?
Well, I was an engineer, and I would work on jobs that paid well, and where I wanted to work and what I wanted to do, and I just had great mobility and traveled internationally, and I was just upper middle class, doing very well and very happy with my life.
Mm-hmm. And what about? Okay, so this happened to you. What about the person that was with you?
He has not been forthcoming. He says very little about it, hasn't spoken about it to me in years, and he largely got left out of the loop. He didn't get the buzz. He was with me for a good reason, and I'll leave it to the book to tell you what that reason is. He is a brother at what I've been doing and what I've done so far. He's done it before me at another time. And he's just not given to know the details that I have. And he's really afraid to approach the subject. He makes him very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, how about your family, the people that are close to you? Has this whole thing alienated anyone?
Well, my wife was in it with me, and I didn't know that for a long time. My two kids don't have the same understanding. They just look wide-eyed at me when reading the book. They don't know what to make of it. they're kind to me, whatever they think, but it's not anything that they have to share. And my wife, who died last year, was in it all along, and I didn't know it, and she didn't let on.
I'm sorry to hear about your wife. Was her name Mary?
Her name was Jean.
Jean. Okay, someone was asking that on the message board. Maybe someone with the same last name as yourself. So when you say she was in on it, but you didn't know, can you explain exactly what you mean by that?
Yeah, I had an experience here at Rim Canal at Okeechobee, about 10 years ago, and it was this crocodile-like thing showed up and would swim high on the surface of the water and swim over and look at people and stuff like that. And it didn't resemble anything like an alligator or a crocodile or a caiman or anything like that. It had two forward-mounted eyes, red with black centers, nothing like an alligator. It had very wide, curved head, like I described it as like a leather shoe, wet leather shoe left out in the sun to dry, curved up like that. And it swam in the canal here for about 4 days. And I called Jean to tell her about it, and she stopped me and told me the whole thing before I could get it out. And she was in Ohio. She had a vision of it at the same time. And there were other such things that she and I shared, because I didn't realize who I had married as part of the story. Okay. So what I'm saying is there are people that are more than they seem, which I think we've all suspected all along, that are here with us, that interact with us to a purpose. And I'm here to confirm that is true. From my own experience, this is what's been going on. Now, these people that in the UFOs, they come and go and manifest themselves in various ways, are the graduates of this world of another cycle. They're the ones that have risen to the next realm, which is realm 1. And as such, they are, we'll say, they manage the entire universe. They make all the changes. In fact, that's mostly their charter, to change things as they need to be changed. Things are happening, and even with people, they will come to certain people just to make a change of something that's important in their life walk.
Okay.
How's that for an answer?
All right. Someone wants to know on the message board, when you said who you had married, why are you being obscure about it? What do you mean by that when you said you didn't know who you had married?
I married another elder, somebody who was a graduate of this whole process, and she didn't let on, well, in our marriage, very much about that. I mean, she and I would share things, and she had insight on things, and she had powers, but it wasn't all spelled out for me until she passed, and then I got the information about who she really was.
Now, I want to go back to your kids, if you don't mind, because your son Rick is the person who first connected with me, actually contacted me a number of times to see if you could be on this show, and seemed very supportive of you. And but is it the story he's having a hard? I mean, I could understand why anyone would have a hard time with the story. No offense to you, but it's a hard story for someone to swallow.
It certainly is, and that's why it's taken me so long to prepare a book that actually explains it as well as I could make it clear. And he is supportive because he's read the book, and he feels that, having seen me go through this all these years, that he understands that this is real. This is not a dry run.
Okay. We have a bunch of questions coming in, which I always encourage, so I'm going to just try to get to them when I can.
I'm delighted to answer them. I lived it. I don't even have to look it up. I can tell you anything you need to know.
Sure, yeah. And here's kind of a blunt one, but I think it's one worth throwing at you. So what's the point of all this info given to an obscure person without an audience to listen to his stories? Why, in other words, why you? Why not? Someone that people listen to, look up to, a well-known person.
Oh, right. Well, a lot of those people that are prestigious and have unusual lives are themselves elders, so they may not know it. They suspect it because of the way things break and go their way. But a lot of those people now, you want to know why one of those doesn't bring the message instead of some obscure guy out here. It's because it was my turn at bat, more or less. We're all in the process of being developed for one reason or another, in one direction or another. And this came to me because it was my turn to do it.
One of the things I'm thinking of is there's so much new information right now about the possibility of alien life out there in perhaps billions of planets, with considering the vast universe. Each galaxy could have who knows how many planets that could possibly host intelligent life. Why would never mind why you would be the person that would be contacted, but why would this be happening on Earth? What do you know about that?
That's a heavy question, and it does have a heavy answer. This Earth is what it is, but there is no place like it in the universe with people being developed like we are at this time, but not simultaneously. We do use other places, other venues for development of people, but they are in a different district. There are presently two districts that host the development of human beings. This one is known as Galicia, the other one is known as Whiting, and they're about a third of the circumference of the universe away from each other. There's another one coming online, which is what this present cycle is about. It's being commissioned now, which will be Syria. It's the last of the three. And there's no other colony of human beings being developed anywhere else in the universe but right here. It isn't about physical life in these other planets. It's about spiritual life, the real form we are. And these people that travel in these UFOs travel in their spirit form until they get to where they need to do their work, and then they grow a biological suit to wear and to do their business, which is exactly what they showed me as part of this contact that I had here in Okeechobee. And then they discard them. And the reason they do that is because they travel hyperspace, hypertime above this realm in a flash. They can just, in a matter of a minute's time, they can be on the other side of the universe, using the other dimensions, the many dimensions that are available to us in that form that we can't see or feel here. I mean, that's why some people levitate off the ground, spontaneously or deliberately. They can access one of the other dimensions, which allows that to happen. I did it a couple of times running on the levee in my morning run, my morning exercise. Did it a couple of times without realizing what was going on until later.
Wow.
It's just that we're confined to fewer dimensions here, and which is exactly why these UFOs seem to flicker and flash before they come fully into these dimensions. They're limiting themselves to our fewer dimensions to be seen and to interact with us. But the dimensions available to them are much more.
Okay. You use the term elders a lot. Wondered if you could give your interpretation of that.
Yeah, I can tell you directly. They're the ones, first of all, the ones that make the cut to the next realm are not elders. They are immortal. All these people from UFOs are immortal people. We are not yet. This is a trial. This is a camp where we all go through boot camp to become immortal. If we can develop ourselves and our conscience is allowed to develop ourselves to be the people that we should be to qualify for that. Not everybody is going to be. Now, the next ones above that are selected from a small number of those that reach realm 1, the UFO people, to become more. And Lord Michael sends them to be elders, and the first thing he does with the elders when they come to him is he presents them to God, which gives them an identity. All of us have one identity known to God at that point. And every realm that we ascend to, we get another identity. God has 33 identities. And in my book, it'll show you how that happened, how she actually won those identities. We are in the same process of winning identities as we travel from one realm to the other. So the elders are anybody who has transcended past realm 1. The people of realm 1 don't want to ever return to the earth to be in human form again. And of those few that are offered to come, only half accept. That's how comfortable they are with their realm of being and their work.
I know I'm not coming back. I've had it.
No. Yeah. Yeah, this has been an ugly place. It's been very hard on us all, very hard.
Now,
and the wars that we've had in the past are all calculated to develop us. We don't grow unless we steam and cook the brew. And that's what the wars are about. And it's people like Darius and other people who are Lord Michael's people are sent in this world, like Erwin Rommel. He's the one known as Daniel. Such people are elders, and they come here to help develop things in the grand plan of things.
Now, let me just ask this. Has anyone that you have ever heard of come forward and actually admitted this publicly?
No. I don't know. I'm not so well read because I've been avoiding reading other people's material for 15 years. So I'm not so well read that I can say that somebody else has actually revealed themselves to be this. But I will tell you going forward, I think there'll be more of it. And I can guarantee you there'll be some people on my team. I have a team of people in this with me that are scattered around and don't believe me. Half of them don't. They're in it with me. That will announce to the world who they are and why they're doing it. All that's ahead yet. It's going to be a fast-moving frame for the next 20 years. A lot of stuff is going to happen, amazing stuff.
Okay.
A lot of answers.
Now, in 20 years from now, you'll be rather elderly yourself.
I'm probably leaving before 2020.
And so what type of role would, if you are, let's just say you don't make it too long, and this is a very sensitive subject to talk about, but let's just put it out there. What would your role be in this whole situation?
If I were to stay the full time?
Or what is your proposed role for as long as you're here?
Well, besides getting the book out, I don't think I have very much more to offer. But they're not making it easy, and this book has to go out in all major languages of the world, which is why I have a team of 18 others in this with me.
The team of 18 others you mentioned earlier, you said that they're not, some of them don't know it, and some of them are not acting yet. They're going to have some type of revelation or something.
Yeah, they're
that
hiding from it. When the book arrives to them, then I'll call them and set up a meeting, and we'll have a talk. They don't have to go along with the program. They don't have to do anything. Everything above this world is offered as a free choice to the taker. Nothing is forced on anybody. So if they muster up to help, that's a plus side for them. Nobody is obligated to do that unless they feel the obligation. Now, at least of all me, I can't have anybody do anything they don't want to do.
So, and let's just say 20 years from now, the world, according to what you are thinking or what you were told, supposedly is going to happen. Why would they? And they know it's going to happen. Why would they let it happen? And why is there no course to change?
Well, we've been living on credit. We've been busy polluting the atmosphere, and the atmosphere is so messed up now that we're getting weather extremes that we can't deal with already, and this is just the beginning of it. And things are just going to cascade out of control, that we're going to be driven to do things that we don't want to do, that we won't have the available time to kick back and think it over. This thing is just going to be 1, 2, 3 thing. It's just one thing after the other. And in 20 years, things are going to be so bad that the European Union is going to attack the United States with nuclear weapons. And we will, of course, reply in kind. And that major war is going to take out everything on the planet. That's how the world was going to end. But they gave me the whole scenario. I mean, the whole scenario was there.
All right, just for someone that just started listening now, some people are coming in. So the recap of what happened, and we're not going to go over the whole thing, but supposedly you were contacted and this whole thing zapped into your head instantly, and it took several months.
I think it took time. It took time. It was 45 minutes missing on the clock. I think they shifted me into other time for their purposes and then shifted me back. It was for 45 minutes of elapsed time missing on the clock from the beginning to the end of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that, let's just say the 45 minutes or whatever. So that, but it came out in your mind over it took, you said 15 years, did I hear you say?
Yes, year after year. I'd get more, year after year. Some of these chapters were very hard to get right, and I had to wait for the information, and that's mostly where I was waiting. And sometimes I got it wrong, and they would correct me, and the power would fail, and I'd lose my edits and stuff. They have a rude way of dealing with me, but they did it, and between us, we got it down on paper. And so that's why I can tell you that Bombay is going to be destroyed first, and then comes a new Korean War, hot war right after that. We're going to bomb North Korea. Then Russian Civil War will happen. And this is like staccato, one right after the other, because we got a lot of stuff to pack into 20 years.
Let me ask you this. Why on earth would they want, if this was all true, why on earth would they want us to know this?
Well, I guess they're going to have to do a reconciliation to somebody about it. It's not for me to say how they're going to do that or what it means to them, but I know that we're all going to be pressed to decide whether we're going to transcend this world or not. And very many people are not going to transcend this world.
Yep.
But the object of the game is there's the harvest. Those that are coming, that are going to Realm 1, are being tested to see if they're really up to it. It's a test. We've been tested every step of the way. We just didn't realize it.
There's a lot. There's been a lot of. This is actually a message from the message board. There's been a lot of predictions similar to this over time that have never come true. Why should someone listen to you instead of the other people that have made similar predictions?
All right. Here's the pitch. They had me write a book and put all this down in paper. Now it's published and it's out there. Nothing can be changed. It's there. When these things begin to happen, it'll catch notice. People say, well, somebody wrote about that. And as these things mount up and the sequence actually plays out, then they'll know that the rest of what I put in there is true and is guaranteed to be so. And that is the purpose for underlying the information with events. They can't be denied, and nobody can do that unless it's given to them from higher, which mine was. And nobody's more surprised about all this than me. I had a life, and I didn't know from Shinola. I mean, I lived vignettes. I lived contacts with them all my life, but I couldn't remember them for more than a few weeks, and then they drift out of mine, and they were gone. The buzz gave me all of that back, right from my earliest time, from 3 years old on, when they came to help me through with my life. I had a kind of a tough life when I was a kid. They got me through it.
Okay. And a lot of times, when people talk, were you actually abducted or just contacted?
No, I cooperated. I cooperated with everything they wanted, and all they wanted me to do was come up there and have a ride and see everything. That's what they said I could do. But they didn't take me physically. They took me out of my body, halted the time my body was standing there timelessly, while the time was running on a different clock in their presence. But I remember nothing about having been aboard that UFO, yet they imply that I had been there. And the buzz was explicit. That happened on real time in this world. I took the buzz, and it was a really hair-raising experience.
All right, here's a blunt question for you, and I hope it's not too offensive to you. But
no, I have a thick skin, son. Don't worry about anything.
How is someone going to determine that you're just not mentally ill and ranting this?
I think the plausibility of the information they gave me in the book will be overwhelming. Overwhelming, spelling out the truth. Nobody can write the kinds of things that I revealed and not be in the right mind. It just hangs together too correctly. Mm-hmm. That's all I can say in that defense without things actually happening.
Yeah.
But those things are close now that are going to happen because the time is going on.
Yeah. And one other question that came up there was and this is always a question, and always one that never can be solidified or never that I've heard of, is there any physical proof in any type of way of any of these things that you're talking about? Any physical proof that you've had contact other than this book that you've written?
Other than the information that they gave me to put in the book, I have nothing else to offer. It's just the dimensions is prohibitive. I mean, I'm walking around in a bodysuit like everybody else, and I travel at night when I sleep, and that's how sometimes I come back with information for the book. They have shown me that I can do that. But when I can levitate a boulder on demand, on my own will, that'll be something. But and they show me that I can do that, but I haven't been able to do it. I get into self-hypnosis when I try. So without that kind of proof, I don't think I can offer you anything until these things begin to happen. And the first thing is the terrorist attack on USA, 12,000 killed.
Wow. Well, I'll certainly remember that number myself. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about your book, and we got about maybe 10 minutes or so, and you were very kind, or your son was very kind, to have the publisher send me a copy of your book, and I picked up the box from the post office and could barely lift it up. That book is like close to 600 pages. Is that right?
It's about 560, single-spaced, 8.5 and 11 pages. It just says taken that much. It's really 4 books in one. And we created what we call a compendium because people don't want to be left dangling. They buy a book and there's 3 other books outstanding. Well, they can buy those other books. They can have them, and the print is larger in them, but we felt that it was more useful to have one major book to offer everybody, even if they want the smaller books, divided out.
Has anyone talked to you about Kindle? And it's not a joke. Someone on the message board.
My son has. My son is going to put it in Kindle format.
I see.
That's the next thing that's going to happen.
Yep.
We're going to do that.
That's good. I think, there's one person on the message board that said they'd probably read through it if it was on Kindle. And it's a good way to go today. Okay.
Well, I can tell you that is in the plan.
I see. And I'm just taking a second here because I know I had some questions that I couldn't get to. And, again, we have about 10 minutes. And I guess, thinking off the cuff here, I'd like to ask you, you're saying, are you still being contacted? No,
I haven't, not for a while, and I haven't seen any UFOs around. I've seen several others here in Okeechobee. The last one I saw was about 3 years ago, and it was up for about a 45-degree angle in the broad daylight, and it looked like a bent beer can orbiting on a long axis. And it was just like flash and flash, but you had to have a certain way of looking at it, or you couldn't see it. It was like a cleavage in the air that you had to get just right in order to see it. But that's the last one I've seen here.
Okay. And let's see. I'm kind of running out of things to say, so if you want to just tell the audience a little bit more about like you said, you have a 562-page book, I think it is. Can you tell more about the book and what it encompasses overall? Because that's a lot of pages.
That's 4 books. That's why. It's 4 books in one. The first book is called Awakening. And that's all these events that have happened with these special people that I've been given. And I wrote it down just as it developed with those people. And that will sort of break the ice. If you want to read strange stuff, manipulation of time and place, that's where to read The Awakening. All right, having awakened, then I shift to special knowledge, which leads us into the conference that I went to before I came into this world, which they let me remember, where Moses, who is the chancellor of this district, gave us a heads up on what was going to happen into the world. And then I have developed a chapter in that called
You there?
The signs. Mm-hmm. And I go into detail about the signs that I have received since I went to that conference. And that is the special knowledge. Well, there's more special knowledge surrounding that of all who these other people are and who's pulling the strings and why. It's the how, what, where, when, why, and how of everything. If you want real answers about your life, you'll find it in book 2. Book 3 is Divine Family, and it has to do with, again, who's running the world and who's running the universe and who's running the districts, the other 25 districts, the other 24 districts. And some of these are familiar names. And some of those people that are running those districts are here in life with us now, here and now, today. And I won't go into who they are right now because I don't think I need any more controversy, but it's in there. And Divine Family, and it's where your place is in the Divine Family going forward. It speaks about you and me and the others, and about what our prospects are for becoming Divine Family to each other. And then book 4 is Expectations, which go into the more immediate expectations of what's going to happen to us here as the show goes on. The weather is going to get nuts. Our crops are going to fail. There's going to be a meteor. A 2.25 mile meteor is going to hit this world over by the Philippine Islands. And it's going to heat the ocean water for about 60 miles to produce hyper typhoons, 400 to 600 mile an hour storms headed for Asia. That's what you can expect in the 2020s.
Doesn't sound like a real cheery future. I know you're continuing on with your book here, but we're getting close to the end, and we had a whole bunch of questions pop up. And I'm sorry to interrupt you. If we have more time toward the end, we can go back to that.
That's all right, my friend. Don't even worry about it.
Okay.
All right.
And let's see. Do you believe that in abductions that are happening, is it positive or negative? And what's your general feeling about the abduction stories that are out there?
I don't know that by abductions. I'm not sure whether I can endorse that they're taking liberties with people and they're doing their bodies and all of this stuff. They may actually be doing that because the people from Realm 1 are the ones that make the adjustments in the universe, including to us, people, and the things that are important to us. But my information is that they are our friends. They are not our enemies. They're not here to maraud us. They're here to help us in our life walk. We all have been given a walk in life appropriate for us. And that's everybody. The people who are without homes, that's everybody is walking up a path that was given to them for the development. In these special times, it will help them make the cut if they are careful. So the UFO people are not our enemies. There are 12 types of them, by the way. 12 types. They they look like different races because they're so different, but there's not a race angle to it. It just has to do with where they work and the kind of work they do. And above them, there's another type that comes with the great sage, who is an oracle of God who brings messages to the messengers. They are the tribe separate from the other 12, and they look different. But so the little people are 12 types, and the one that they gave me to illustrate was the tribe of Benjamin. I know the tribe of Asher is the ones with the big, wide, round eyes, and the ones with up-slanting eyes, tall, up-slanting eyed people. They are of Dan, tribe of Dan. If that'll help you out. The other 9, I don't know what they are, but they have a correlation to the major languages in the world. The Benjamites are the Celts. The Asherites are Arabic. And the Danites are Germans. And they use that language between them. The ancient languages of those languages are in use by them to each other. And we don't speak using air. We speak telepathy. The conversation appears in mind. It's really wonderful.
You know, we're getting right close to the end here. Can you just say the name of your book, please, and where people can get it? We only have about a minute left here.
I'm delighted that you asked me. It's on Amazon.com books, and the 4 books are I Am Darius. Each of them start off with that. I Am Darius. The compendium is I Am Darius, the Last Prophet. That's the big book with all the information in it between covers. And it's, for the size of the book, it's a bargain. It's pretty cheap. It's about $17.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you so much, and I want to apologize to all you great people on the message board that gave a whole bunch of great questions right near the end. We just plumb ran out of time, and please come back next week. And so, Richard, I want to thank you so much for being on the show.
I'm grateful to have the opportunity to speak. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. So that's it for our show today. So if you missed any part of this show, you can catch it as a podcast and a whole bunch of other free podcasts on our website, which is podcastufo.com, of course. Also, you can check out, there's one link to our show, let me say that again. We have one link in our show notes to the story of New Hampshire. I want to thank everyone for helping out with the show today. Our guest, of course, Keith Rowland, producer for the Dark Matter Radio Network, Andy Fleming for the look into astronomy, Carrie Lloyd Whitehouse for music, Peggy Shunning for managing our Facebook page. And remember to like us on Facebook for all the latest UFO news. You can check us out next week right here at the Dark Matter Radio Network. And don't forget, our start time next week is 9 p.m., not 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you, and remember to keep your eyes to the sky.
Very smooth. Thank you.